Welcome back to the Dallas Meetup Dime, where we get straight to the value in 10 minutes or less. I'm your host, Carson Gibbons, and today I'm joined by the director of BioLabs Pegasus Park, Miss Gabby Everett. Gabby, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
It's
Thanks
been a
for
while
the invite.
since we last featured you at the health tech cohort last May, in which you absolutely broke the internet as part of the featured networker cohort.
Yeah, that was a blast. That was a really great turnout. Of course, Dallas Meetup always is. You've done great with that.
Thank you. Will you tell us a little bit more about what it is that BioLabs Pegasus Park does?
Sure, absolutely. So BioLabs is a biotech startup incubator.
Okay.
So basically we take baby biotech companies and support their needs through very, very early stage, all the way through proof of concept experiments to show investors that they are venture backable, they've got technology that's ready for the clinic, de-risking, if you will. Once those companies get into the clinic, scaling up, working on other projects, think co-working space for biotech and life science companies.
What is biotech exactly? Like for the layperson,
Sure.
I think we understand both individual terms, but what's an example of a biotech-oriented company?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. The two individual terms coming together, that center of the Venn diagram. Anything that's in that intersection of biology, technology, engineering. So think things like Alzheimer's therapies, cancer diagnostics, synthetic biology, tissue generation, regenerative medicine, viruses that are used for crop pest control, ag tech kind of thing. So that word biotech is really kind of a catch-all for all of those different industries.
Catch me up on how you're now leading the leading incubator of these types of companies in this market. Like what is your CV, resume, background that kind of led you to this point?
Yeah, so I am very much a nerdy scientist. Growing up in Houston, going to the Natural History Museum and going to Astro World, Six Flags theme park, those were on the same level with me.
That's funny.
I thought initially I was going to do, paleontology or, astrophysics or something like that. And then early, I would say like sixth grade, I discovered genetics. Well, actually, I would say genetics discovered me. It was this really cool field that I kind of kept tabs on. AP biology class, my instructor brought us to a lab at Texas A&M where they were cloning cats.
Oh, wow.
And from that moment on, this whole idea of doing bench research, doing research for impact, for commercialization, just in general trying to make the world a better place, that's where I ended up. So I did a PhD at Texas A&M in biochemistry, working on viruses that infect and kill bacteria. I had a personal vendetta against bacterial infections.
Wow.
So did work there, and then I kind of switched to the opposite side of microbiology into probiotics. Joined a local probiotic company, biotechnology company, NCH Corporation. I was there for 6 years, kind of wearing all the hats, basically in effect doing everything of a startup, doing the market research, doing the tinkering in the lab, formulation, scale up, marketing, writing patents, training the sales team on how to go out and sell our products. So again, wearing all those hats. And then when BioLabs found me and said, hey, this would be great for you, I looked at the job description and the first line was, we empower scientists. Mm-hmm. So I said, when do I start?
You went through these biochemistry courses, have all this education and accolades as like the actual hands-on pragmatic subject matter expert. Who trained you on this whole business go-to-market side of things? Like, how did you intuit that aspect of all of it? Because I'm hearing a lot of that with the complexity of understanding these products, how to build them, the regulatory environment.
Yeah, that's a fun question. I think that's something that a lot of first-time founders underestimate. Good science isn't enough. You have to have the business side of it as well. So working at NCH, going through those 6 years of product development from cradle all the way to post-commercialization support gave me insight on all these different aspects. And then joining BioLabs and learning the business of science from the pharma side, that was a drinking from the water hose kind of thing.
So NCH almost served as like a sandbox environment to test the go-to-market for these new products, and now you're doing that for this actual incubator.
Right.
Tell us about BioLabs, like how How long has it been around? How many people go through a particular batch or like what does that cadence look like for you guys?
Yep. So BioLabs as this biotech startup incubator, like I said, co-working space. Think of it as a playground. I love that you use the word sandbox. Basically, companies join BioLabs. They're month-to-month agreements. So rather than companies that are, say spinning out of UT Southwestern, UT Dallas, UT Arlington, they have these really fantastic ideas and these really great technologies that they eventually want to bring to market. The problem is that science is very expensive. So you could have one workforce piece of equipment, a flow cytometer, it's a $400,000 box. And if you come out of the university, maybe you win a pitch competition, maybe you win 50K, you and I think, hey, that's awesome. But in the world of science, that gets you absolutely nowhere. So being able to come into a shared working space, we've got $5 million in research equipment that our scientists can, I say play around on because to me, science is playing. It's crazy that we get paid to play. And they get to advance their science without that financial risk of $4 to $5 million of building out a lab, tens of thousands of dollars a month having to rent equipment, and paying your scientists and having to operate your facilities. So BioLabs takes that complexity away so that all our scientists have to do is focus on their science and we take care of everything else. Removing friction, if you will.
Well, absolutely, a significant amount of friction. What does the startup or the medically based founder get from BioLabs in return? Like, what does that split look like in terms of equity or?
Oh, Carson, you're talking my language. Great question. We don't take any equity in our companies. There's no first right refusal on the technology. We don't want a piece of the IP. The idea of BioLabs is to create that superhighway from research to reality.
Okay.
And complicating a cap table at the very beginning of your company's life cycle by having, a incubator on your books makes it more difficult for downstream investment. We are a company that was built by scientists and entrepreneurs for scientists and entrepreneurs. Our entire team are nerdy scientists. So when a company comes in and a founder says, hey, I've got this antibody company, we can take them through the lab and say, we've got this for you, we've got this for you, we've got this for you. We understand the pains of what they're going through and can support them not just operationally, but as a community, because that's the beauty of BioLabs. It's not just infrastructure, it's this fantastic ecosystem in and of itself where you have founders, research scientists, accountants, advisors, all working together. I've seen CEOs standing around the cold brew coffee, it's our water cooler because science runs on caffeine, standing around sharing business development strategies. One says to the other, man, I really need a regulatory consultant. Well, here, have the card of mine. She's fantastic, So we see a lot of that happening. I've seen researchers from 3 different companies gathering around and troubleshooting the same piece of equipment and celebrating with each other and supporting each other when inevitably those experiments fail. So it goes beyond just a place and it becomes really a space for these companies to thrive.
These companies are getting great access to this equipment, this knowledge sharing, this ecosystem, to your point. What is the criterion that you're evaluating them with on the front end to access all of these resources?
Yeah, great question. The companies that we look for are very early stage. Again, companies that are coming out of a university, maybe they're companies that are moving here from the coasts and need a place to land. Maybe it's an independent startup company that's maybe a wearable medical device. We want for those companies to be established with a game plan, and we really evaluate them on their technical skills too, because I don't want someone who doesn't have experience with a flow cytometer coming in and cruising around on our $400,000 machine, right? So it's really about the science. Can we even support the science as far as what our infrastructure will allow, and the company itself.
Am I hearing that the incubator is like there's a perpetual batch always going on that you can tack onto at any insertion point?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. So how many companies are represented out of BioLabs Pegasus Park today?
Yeah, so we've got 23 companies
Really?
right now. We've been in operation for a little over 3 years. And when
incredible.
we first got started, we based our projections on how biolabs in other locations have filled out, because it's a global network. I think we've got 18 labs, 11 of them, 12 of them here in the US. So we modeled our projections based on how other biolabs filled out. So we're thinking 1 year in, if we have 4 to 5 companies, if we're 30-40% occupied, that's what success looks like. Instead, we had 20 companies and we were 75 to 80% occupied in the first year. So biotech has always been here in North Texas. It just didn't have the infrastructure to really pull it all together and connect it. So since then, we've continuously been at 20 companies. Some companies stay with us for 6 months before maybe they do an experiment that forces them into a pivot point, or maybe they move on to clinical trials and they don't need lab space anymore. Maybe they grow too big for biolabs and they graduate out of our biolab space and build their new, their own facility. And then some companies are with us for longer than that. It just depends on their needs.
How can they turn around and benefit biolabs once they've made it to quote unquote product market fit, or this experiment is FDA approved, or what have you?
Yeah, I think that serial entrepreneurs, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. I've seen several founders who they sell their company for billions of dollars to Merck, and they're sit around for maybe 6 months or so, and they're like, okay, what's next? So those serial founders either bring new technologies back to biolabs and spin out new companies, or they support existing companies, mentorship in other ways.
On the subject of support, we're coming up here to the end. As you referenced earlier, we have a broad coalition of audience members here, some health tech, biotech focused, many not, the majority not. What would be your kind of generic CTA or ask of our community as it relates to biolabs moving forward?
I would say the important thing is to show up and get involved. Science is not a solo sport. It's very much a game sport. As I said at the beginning, having great science, that's just the start. If you have fantastic science, but if you don't have an experienced team supporting that science, you're going to fail. So we're looking for regulatory advisors, commercialization advisors, marketing, go-to-market strategy. So if you're interested in biotech, find us at BioLabs, get involved. There's other groups, Bio North Texas, that's a local trade org. We're always looking to bring new people in the fold and expand the ecosystem.
What is the website URL we should go to?
We are at biolabs.io.
biolabs.io.
Yep, or you can look up BioNTX, Bio North Texas, and they're our local trade group.
Perfect. BioLabs, and this is Gabby Everett. We so appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Absolutely.